Welcome to Sowtastic podcast. My name is Roshan India. Today we have with us an awesome guest. Her name is Nancy Griffin, and we're excited to have her come on board because, I've had a chance to talk to her and the amount of things that she's not just doing, but contributing back to entrepreneurs. We just want to bring her on and pick her brain a little bit. I will try to condense it as much as possible in the time limit that we have. We may even have to bring her on for a second time if she lets us, because she just has so much knowledge and wisdom to share. So Nancy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you. Why don't we do this? Can we take just a couple of minutes and learn a little bit more about you, your professional life, your family life a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So hi, everyone. I am Nancy Griffin. I am a single parent of a beautiful 21-year-old who is very interested in music, very interested in languages. That's actually what her major is. We've been together, single parent and daughter, for 21 years. I actually have over 18 years experience in corporate IT. And then from that point, I actually went and dove straight into full-time entrepreneurship with the passion of helping others build their own business and understand financial literacy and wealth and passive income and residual income and generating revenue. So you're no longer just working on hobby, you're actually a profitable business. So that's some of the stuff geared around, what I've done in the past. And my daughter, who I'm very, very proud of.
I'd love to have you brag about yourself. You mentioned a couple of master's degrees and then, additional degrees that you're pursuing. Can you please talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I originally received my bachelor's degree in business administration. From there, I went on and got my master's degree in portfolio and project management with some form of IT added on, as well as got a second master's degree after that, because my corporate experience in IT is what really drove that passion and that interest in technology. So I went on to get a second master's degree in cybersecurity network engineering with a dual degree. So I actually got my JD in real estate and tax law. Right now, I'm contemplating on going back to school for my PsyD, so a clinical psychologist is really where my focus is kind of now, but I still haven't decided on that. School is an ongoing thing. Just sometimes, not writing papers is a good thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting my real estate broker's license way back in 2010, which has definitely contributed to my interest in entrepreneurship.
Can I please have you talk a little bit about some of the professional businesses that you're running today?
Yeah, right now I own a medical clinic. We actually have medical primary care, healthcare, mental health care. We do a lot of non-invasive body cosmetics procedures as well. So that's a different, separate type of entity, but that's all in the medical realm. I also have a consulting firm where I consult on life coaching, career paths, and things of that nature. I also have different domains with real estate. I started as a landlord. I've flipped houses. I've done all the rehab. Anything related to real estate at this point, you name it, I've done it. Wholesaling, tax liens, the whole gamut, but now have converted all of that into Airbnbs. And that's really where my bread and butter, my passion is. My goal for this upcoming year, especially with 2022 coming right around the corner, is 100 plus Airbnb units. Mm-hmm. But the benefit behind all of that and understanding the business strategy behind that is something I'm passionate in. I can name a whole bunch of other things, but I think we'll stop there.
Well, and you mentioned a little bit about day trading as well. When do you get time to do?
Ironically enough, so I usually day trade on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have specific times, right? And I've learned this because over the course of time, I learned what type of trader I am, how the amount of money that I want to make, the types of trades that I want to make. And I actually figured out, what do I need to do and how much do I need to make per day in order to generate a $200,000 income, right? Mm-hmm. And even helping others who can't fathom that concept. Okay, well, what do you need to do to make an extra $500 for that day? Mm-hmm. So I actually day trade Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 a.m. to about 7:30. Okay. If it's after 8:30 Central Standard Time, so if the market has opened and I'm still in a trade, I messed something up. So that's kind of how I am. I usually get in, get out, and with it. So that's one of the revenue streams that I have that I actually thoroughly love reading charts and understanding the market, and cryptocurrencies are definitely my one of my passions get around trading. So.
Wow. Okay. I am going to ask you just to brag about your consulting firm a little bit, because you mentioned that you do life coaching and mentorship to entrepreneurs. Can you tell us more about that a little bit, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I first dove into entrepreneurship, like full head on, no more corporate experience or no more corporate job, I actually started as a project manager working with a different organization. I moved out to New York, and I realized that there are a lot of people out there that are more so entrepreneurs than entrepreneurs. And what really makes the difference, right? I find that as a entrepreneur, you have a hobby, and the hobby is this business that you're trying to get off the ground. But a lot of people, I can't say a lot, I don't know everybody, but the people that I've come into contact with, they either don't know how to start their business successfully, so that way they can generate business funding, they can generate business credit, they can have enough revenue to sustain. You hear about how the first 5 years of any business is always the hardest. Well, how do you ensure that you're going to have enough revenue to sustain that? And by having a hobby, you're not really generating an income. That's how I distinguish whether or not you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur will continue, you'll keep wanting to do this, you'll keep wanting to invest in your business, which is great. But if you're not generating revenue, if you're not generating a profit, if you're not generating passive income, well, actually is, if you're not successful in doing that and you're constantly pouring back in, you're going to always need that other job that's going to provide for it. So in the consulting realm and the work that I do as part of Advise Her, which is what the name of my consulting company is, I'm the her, so I'm going to advise her. Her or him. What we do is we really start to understand, and I'll ask several different questions, especially during the consultation, what type of business, what type of industry, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 6 months? And really get an understanding of what the hurdles are that that particular person has come encountered in that moment, right? In starting their business. Have they even started? Do they know how to get their articles of incorporation? Do they know how to get their DUNS? Do they know how to get their EIN? All of these different components that really help to put you on the map. Do you even know how to become searchable on Google or 411 directory? All of these things that people just don't usually tell you in school by trial and error. Those are some of the main things that I focus on with a lot of the clients that I have from a business standpoint. We also do a lot of life coaching. Where do you want to go? I talk with a lot of people that are still in corporate America that are struggling with that glass ceiling, and really help them identify, how do you make the switch? How do you transition? And it's not necessarily leaving your 9 to 5. You may thoroughly enjoy it, and that's a great thing. But how do you also ensure that you're generating enough income so if you don't want to go to work today, you can actually call in well? Well, not sick, call in well.
In talking more and more with you, I just find such a mindset sync, because what you're doing with people that want to be entrepreneurs versus entrepreneurs, like you mentioned, we're trying to do that at the kids level, because instilling finances into kids as early as 10, we found through studies that they not only understand, but they retain that knowledge, and they can take that and carry that with them to make better financial decisions. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I am absolutely just in awe of the multiple streams that you're doing in the time that you have, as well as raising a now 21-year-old, right? I think you're doing an awesome job, just a personal opinion. So in the little time that I've gotten to know you, I think you're doing an awesome job. So now switching to that mindset a little bit, why was it important for you to sow that financial knowledge into your child? How early did you start, and why was it important to you in the first place?
When I started college, I actually graduated and got my bachelor's in two years. I was working 2 jobs, and I had my baby on my hip. Literally.
I'm sorry, bachelor's in 2 years?
2 years.
That's amazing. Okay, good stuff. Okay, please continue. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I didn't let that slide by. So 2 years, wow.
Yeah, 2 years. I worked 2 jobs, and I had my baby on my hip, literally. I was 16 when I had my daughter. And when I went to college, she would come with me to class. She would sit there and, you kind of get that side eye from teachers of, oh, you're bringing your child with you. But my daughter was a good kid. She didn't cry and all that other stuff, which made it easier. It didn't when I had to take her home, and I still had homework, but I had to put her to sleep. Right. So fast forward, once I graduated college. See, here's the thing that people don't tell you as a scholar. I was always taught, my parents, they both have their master's degree, and I was always taught that I was going to go to college, and going to college, I can get a good job, and then I can provide for my family. Well, when you graduate high school as a junior, and then you go to college and you finish that in 2 years, what people don't tell you is the financial burden that it causes, especially if you take out student loans. And I, as a single parent, I got a refund check when I was first in college. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. This is the most money I've ever seen at one time. They don't tell you got to pay that back. Well, they do in all the paperwork that you don't read.
The little legalese thing, yeah.
Right. It baffled me. So when I graduated, I was excited. I'm done with school, and now I should be able to get a great job. No. I was still working at FedEx office, FedEx Kinko's at the time. And at that time, that's when I decided to go for my master's degree, because what I was given at the end of graduation was a bill that I was going to have to start paying on, called student loans. And I can't afford that on a FedEx office, Kinko's retail that you're working at, McDonald's, Subway. It doesn't matter. If you're not generating enough income to pay back your student loans, you got to come up with another solution. And those solutions are what I call exit strategies. I didn't have an exit strategy for school. That was my aha moment. So in talking with my sister, because she was going for her master's degree at the time, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. She's like, oh, well, go for your master's. I'm like, yeah, my master's in what? What am I? And lo and behold, I ended up starting my career in IT at that point. So I went for project and portfolio management with some IT on the side, applied technology. I literally dragged out my first master's degree. It took me, I want to say, about 7 years, because I knew I didn't want to pay the student loans back. I didn't, even after I got a great job making all this money and, all these things, I still didn't want to pay my student loans back. It was such a daunting thing, a daunting task. So around 2008, my daughter at the time was 8. She was born in 2000. She and I got into more real estate. At that point in time, I also started to understand a little bit more about what I didn't like, because I started hitting a glass ceiling at work. And even though I changed jobs after a while, I kind of knew then that something wasn't right. There's no way that even making the amount of money I make with the amount that I'm going to have to pay back, plus providing for my daughter, and at the same time also just upholding a standard of living, not something absorbent, just a regular standard of living. Yeah, something wasn't adding up, and it was the dollars. So around the time that my daughter turned 8, that's really when I started taking more of an interest in real estate, flipping real estate. That's when I got my real estate license, my broker's license. And that's when I started planting the seeds in my daughter's mind of, yes, go to school if that's what you want to do. And I even have, my mindset has shifted around college significantly, just going through this whole process. So at that time, go to school if you want to, but also we're going to figure out different ways and different means. So that way, if you don't want to go to school, you don't have to. There are other opportunities. And it's, like I said, going back to what are your exit strategies anytime you enter into, whether that's school, whether that's a new profession, whether that's another business, what's your exit strategy for it?
Mm-hmm. Do you come from a family of business owners, or do you come from a family of people that are similar mindset as you that want to do multiple things? Like, was that ingrained early on for you, or was that something that you had to sort of jump out and pave the way out on your own?
Ironically enough, when I was growing up, it was more get around, go to school. My dad has always been an entrepreneur. He had his own music store. He taught music education. He taught different students. He has different gigs. And then on my mother's side, she was a physical education teacher. So she had a stable, consistent job, pension, everything else. But her father actually owned laundromats. He owned a funeral home.
Okay. Wow.
There's a whole gamut of entrepreneurs throughout, so I want to say we have a good mixture, but what was instilled in me was to go to school and get a good job, not necessarily be the entrepreneur, even though my whole family, there are different areas where they're all very successful entrepreneurs. So they didn't necessarily want me to go the education background of a profession. They wanted me to go to school.
Okay.
My dad actually, even coming from my father, who is an entrepreneur, always has been, he wanted me to go the medical route. He wanted me to become a nurse or a doctor or something of that in that statute.
Okay.
And I kind of deviated when I told him, I'm like, no, I'm going to go get my business degree. It was almost like, that's not going to last. You need to go with a industry that's going to last. You're always going to need medical health care and this, that, and the third. And in my mind, because my degree, yes, while it was in business, I also had a lot of technology with it as well, because it was a technology school that I went to. They just offered business. In my mind, I'm like, well, you're going to need technology. And this was back in what, 2000, 2002, maybe. So that's before any major boom of social media, this or, really taking a leap of faith, just following my gut, I guess, to go in that direction. And ironically enough, here I am full circle, actually working in both.
Wow. So now you said you started teaching your daughter when she was 8. Yep. Can you help me understand some of the practical things that you started to do with them early on to have her understand that financial mindset that you were trying to instill in her?
Absolutely. So she would want certain things. My daughter, I would buy her any and everything that she wanted. That was no issue. But around the time she turned 8 and 16, before she could get her first job. One of the main things that we did was she would either help me take off wallpaper, which is the worst, the absolute worst task you can do as a rehabber, is take off wallpaper. She would mow the lawn. She would, there were different activities that I would need, even bringing things up from the car, lifting and helping me carry and all of those things. And I would pay her a particular salary or not salary, but an hourly amount, a certain dollar amount. And it was so funny because she would then get her money and she'd be so excited to get her money. And one of the main things I did with that was I gave her cash, made sure that she could feel it. She could hold it. She knew what she had before we started doing more digital, right? But that way she can value the dollar, value what it actually means to have this money. And as she would receive that, I would then take a portion and put it towards her investment fund. And so she has the money in her hand and I'm like, oh, okay, but this one goes towards investing. And she would look at what she has left in her hand. She's like, okay. And then I'd say, I'll take another one and this one will go towards savings. And she's looking at it and she's like, oh, okay. And then this amount will go towards your everyday living expenses. And the money that's in her hand is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then, ultimately she would have whatever is left over. And she's like, Mom, I can't really do much with that. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem with today's society. That's what happens when you have a job. And she's looking at me, she's like, but so the more I did that and the more I would explain, we also listened to a lot of different books, real estate books, business books. Robert Kiyosaki is huge for me. Donald Trump too, from a business standpoint and navigating and understanding different avenues. I mean, there's a whole audiobook, driving, taking different trips. I'm always listening to an audiobook and I would always have that for my daughter to listen to. But so much so that she's like, Mom, not another book. Mom, not another. And she loves to read. But one of the things that I also noticed is throughout that time, I burned her out with it. I tried to instill so much into her. She doesn't want to see another house. She doesn't want to do any. So there became a time where I mandated it. It's like, no, this is what we're not going to play games. We're going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're going to do. And I think that from a parent's perspective, a learning aspect was really understanding your child and understanding a balance of what it is that they're willing to not only adapt to, but receive. You can dictate, you can talk, you can say things until you're blue in the face. If they're not receptive to receiving what you're saying, it's never going to hold any weight for them.
Yeah.
So that was a major learning lesson for me as a parent.
Besides that challenge, were there any other challenges that you ran into? How did you overcome that challenge with your daughter to say, hey, I understand this is where we may need to slow down a little bit. Let me help you overcome this aspect. Like, what other challenges you run into and how did you overcome it? Oh, no,
I was a dictator. We were going to do this, and that's what it was. It got to the point. So my daughter, the way I raised my daughter was to through your challenges, talk through your problems, talk through different situations, right? So if she did something bad that was at school or that she shouldn't have done at school, she and I would talk about it. And at the time, I thought it was a great methodology for raising your children. What it also fosters is a opportunity for manipulation. And with children, at least with my daughter, she would come up with some of the examples or reasons as to why she did something. And as she and I are talking, I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, I see how you got to where I see how you got there, but how? Okay, no, yeah, I guess I would have done the same thing if I were in your shoes as I'm trying to navigate entrepreneurship. And she's sitting up here trying to talk me out of why it's a good thing to do. And I'm sitting here listening to her in her limited viewpoint because she hasn't been on this earth for that long. She hasn't gone through nearly as many situations as I've gone through as an adult. And I think as parents, that's something that is extremely important because, prime example, my daughter calls me organization. She's like, Mom, you are organized chaos. I'm chaos, Mom, but you're organized chaos. I'm like, okay, I get that. For her, if I were to walk into her room, it's not organized. To say the least. As a parent, I had to learn that's who she is. That's how wired that way is a good book to not just your child, but how people in general and working with those types of the different personalities. I also had to learn how that played a part in her understanding the importance behind entrepreneurship and building longevity with wealth. As she got older, some of the things that she wanted to do, she couldn't do. Like, for example, she wanted to get a job because she didn't want to work with me anymore because I was trying to instill entrepreneurship, this, and this, real estate. She didn't want to do that. So she, I don't want to say manipulated, but manipulated the idea of, okay, Mom, what if I started my own business? I want to start my own business. I'll start my own cleaning business, which she was great at. She made $30 an hour starting her own cleaning business, all because she couldn't go job because she was only 15. But she did that because she still wanted to make money. She just didn't want to make money doing houses and the things that I was trying to teach her about, right? So that's kind of how we got to this. I'll start my own business, being able to replay it back in my head, how things actually worked when she was growing up. So she made all that money. She had a great cleaning service. I helped her with marketing and, all those things. But the moment she turned 16, she went and got a job. And she utilized the concept of, okay, Mom, well, I want to invest more back into my business because she knew what I was passionate about. Being an entrepreneur, making your own money, making sure that you are not mandated to work at a particular job because it takes up all your time. So she was like, okay, I'm going to go get a job so I can put money back into my business. Now, I know better as a parent. I knew better. Lo and behold, her business kind of fell by the wayside and now she's just working. Now, as a parent who is passionate about entrepreneurs, passionate about entrepreneurship, owning your own, doing your own, building your own, my daughter now has a job and it's not in the family business. What do you do? And it got to the point, again, knowing your child's mindset, knowing how they learn, knowing what drives them, becoming okay with who they are in their own right and allowing them to grow and shift. And for me, I literally had to take a step back. Not only did I burn her out of real estate to the point where she didn't want to hear a thing about real estate, a house, it didn't matter. I burned her out of being an entrepreneur. So now all she wants to do is work. This child, when I say she works 40, 60, 80 hours in a week at a job, at a fast food job. And I couldn't for the life of me understand, why would you want to do that? You made twice, if not 3 times as much doing, running your own business. And it finally got to the point where I had to realize she's going to have to go through this process on her own. And if she likes working, if that's what she's passionate about, let her be passionate about it. There's nothing in stones that says she has to be an entrepreneur, allowing her to experience things on her own. Now, luckily enough, now that she's 21, I would say within this past year, she has become well versed in understanding, maybe having this job thing is not really what I want to do. She still does to an extent, but now she's more into investing, more into trading, more into really identifying how she can generate more money. But that was a process I had to take a step back from and allow her to go through.
So do you feel like schools can do a better job to teach financial literacy to kids?
So the only thing I learned in school related to financial literacy was in the sixth grade. And that was how to write a check and balance a checkbook. That's the only thing I learned related to financial literacy. I don't think schools do really anything, because even in one of my graduate classes, I specifically took an accounting course and a trading where it was like a higher level of accounting or something along those lines. But we talked about the stock market and we talked about learning how to trade and things like. I didn't learn a thing, nothing. And it could have been me and my ability to be receptive, but I don't think schools teach really how money works. I don't think that's the purpose of schools. To me, the purpose of a school is to teach you how to be a good employee. If you want to learn more about financial literacy,
traditional schools aren't equipped to teach kids about just foundational things that you think, hey, this is what you need in your real life after you get done with school. Like, for example, being smart about what debts and how to read college debts, being smart about getting to, credit card debts, being smart about buying vehicles, or, maybe even getting your first job. Like, how do you choose what's the smart way to go to set yourself up right? And sometimes schools, and I wish traditional schools had a way to do it. I do want to ask you about the difference in opinion that you had to deal with from what you were trying to teach and what the environment that your daughter grew up in, maybe some of her peers, some of her friends, some of the relatives. How was that different from what you were trying to teach, and how did you have to deal with that?
So that's a great question. My daughter knew where I stood as far as having a job and having a business. I've never really against just having a job. I think I don't necessarily find having a job as the means of generating income, experience, and skills. If you want to learn how to be a salesman, you're working for commission only, just to talk to different people, just to, engage. With my daughter, however, the more she grew up in the lane that the environment I was trying to create for her, geared around entrepreneurship and learning and experiences and things of that nature, she would get that from me. But then in her school, with her peers, with her teachers, with everyone, everybody was promoting go to school. Everybody was promoting get a job. All of her high school friends are working at different fast food restaurants or quick service restaurants, or, they're all working for someone. And, it's almost like that's the fad. That's the thing that they want to do. That's the socialization, which was the other thing that I noticed as to why she wanted to go and work a job. It was socialization. It's the modern way for her to still be in a good environment. So you're not out there, with drug dealers or people that are doing things that you shouldn't be doing. You're doing something that's going to help generate revenue for yourself, but it was more of a socialization thing for her. So hearing, go to school and get a good job, or go to school and have a job, or work a billion hours so you can bring home something. And she's constantly being fed that on not just a daily basis, but look at how many hours a day she's constantly being fed that, versus when she comes home to mom and now she's tired from all that stuff that she just, is engaged in. And here you have mom that's harping on, yeah, but we got to build this and we got to come, let's go look at this house. Let's do all these different things that are for us. She's not wanting to do that. So we butt heads quite a bit, to the point where you want to just back up and allow her to go through that process, because she didn't make the money that she always wanted to. Certain questions would come up and she would start asking, and because I backed up, I had to allow her to become interested in what it is that I was doing, because there then became a time where mom didn't go to a job. Mom's at home. Mom can be here. Mom can do all these different things, even though mom is working way more hours as an entrepreneur than she was as a employee. But she started to notice the shift, and she started to notice, oh, wait a minute. If mom can do all these things, she started putting the pieces together herself. So by me backing up and not enforcing and being so forceful and mandating and all of these other things, and allowing her to go through her process and understand and even get that experience, I think is really what allowed our relationship to grow. Because when I say we butt heads, teenage years are nothing nice. You know, even the best of the best kids, you're still going to run into at some point. we all go through it. At some point, we all go kind of crazy as a teenager. Something happens somewhere. Yeah. But luckily enough, she started to see and really question, well, how do you do this? How is this? And she would ask me certain questions, and without embarking my belief system solely on her, like, well, you have to do da 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 da. No, I gave her an option. I gave her choices. I allowed her to think about what direction does she want to go. Little did she know, as her parent, you know, I'm there with her safety cushion. You know, she didn't. You know, as a parent, that's what we do. But allowed her to think on her own, to identify, well, what direction does she want to go in, and what makes most sense for her? Is she getting the most use out of her time? And I think the timing, when people start realizing that your time is what's impacted and you don't get that back, that's really what starts to trigger different ideas in your head of what can you do? How can you do things so you have more time? As
you took a step back to take that step forward with her, it sounds like that's where she started coming back to you for day trading, and she's getting tips and advice from you. So now that you're seeing that, what are some benefits that you're seeing as a result of the actions that you took with her?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are certain questions that she has, like get around taxes, and how does she do her taxes? Why does she owe? And all of those things. When I explained to her, well, you didn't add in, because I have a business for her, that I've made her the owner of. I was like, well, you didn't add in your businesses here. So if you do this, then you can take this deduction and you can do that, all these other things. So now she's asking questions based off of her experience, which allows me to share a little bit more, but without sharing all of the information, because then she'll get turned off. So if I give you everything, then I don't know if it's maybe too much at once or what the case may be, but she'll be turned off. So I just give her enough and let her go off and venture and think and ponder and research and go through her process of, hey, so remember when you said and da da da? Well, this is what I found. Oh, okay. Well, did you look and that? And so it's kind of like sprinkling little ideas and planting the right seeds. One of my favorite quotes is that you don't plant your seeds and eat the fruit all on the same day. So as I keep planting, and had I had that same mindset when she was younger, she probably would be a little bit further along in this process of entrepreneurship and understanding, even if she, still has a job, right? But building something in addition to, it's very important that you plant the seeds that you want your children to go and investigate further. And as they go through their own hurdles, they will pull up that seed, something that you said that will make a difference, that will allow them to want to actually go and research and figure it out, so that they can say, oh, I did this on my own. Oh, yeah. I found this on my own.
Yeah, that's okay. As long as the end result speaks for itself. Yeah, you're okay. They can take all the credit that they want. So,
right.
So good stuff. Okay. It brings us to my very last question that I love asking my guests. If you could turn back time and talk to your kid self, what advice would you give her about financial thought process, just from all of the things that you've learned in the last, since you've left college and made mistakes, learned from it, and made some more mistakes and learned from those? What advice would you give your kid self?
Leave faster. Absolutely. I have 18 years in corporate IT, right? And all throughout that time, I've always wanted to be this tool belt diva who can fix things and put houses together and design and organize and all this other stuff. And it took me, out of those 18 years, it took me 10 years just to get started. And then out of the remaining 8 years, it then took me losing my job. Not me making the conscious decision to walk away. No, it took me losing my job to then figure it out. Well, had I just believed faster in what it is that I had an interest in, what I was willing to do, all the research that I was willing to do and experience, I was willing to learn on the job. Had I done that for myself up front and believed in myself, I mean, gosh, where would I be today? So I would definitely go back and say, believe faster. If
Mm.
there's something that comes to you as an idea, or something that you're passionate about, something that you want to do, or even if you don't know what you want to do, but you have an idea of, I want to go in this direction, believe that you can go in that direction. I tell my daughter all the time, the word impossible, literally possible. Anything is possible. So I believe that you can do anything that you put your mind to. If people believed faster, we'd probably be a lot further on.
Thank you, Nancy. You've been an awesome guest. You've added a lot of value. I appreciate you coming on our podcast and just taking your time out to do that. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
The ideas, techniques, approaches, information, and opinions expressed in this video or podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Sowtastic LLC and its employees. While the primary purpose is to educate and inform, it does not constitute professional advice or services. We hope, however, that the content presented here will assist you in developing a strong financial understanding and mindset. You may not edit, modify, copy, or redistribute this video or podcast with any other website, computer, or playing device. Use of this video or podcast constitutes acceptance of these terms.